Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Dr. Unati, your host here today. I am here with an interesting topic, but before we start that, I want us to talk about this special day, World Mental Health Day. It's 10th October. It's recognized every year. Every year we recognize this day because it is fundamental that all of us, we realize its importance. All of us, we realize its significance. Today is World Mental Health Day, and I would like all of us, to realize that this day marks the very important discussion that in the world, mental health are number one cause of disability. I'd like you to know that. In the world, mental health issues, specifically depression, is number one cause of disability. In the world today, we have 264 million people struggling with depression, and 800,000 people die by suicide every year. That's a very high number. And in this number, we have 15 to 29 age group that commits suicide. So there's something that we need to do in the world. And I'd like people here to recognize that this is a very important discussion because, most especially in Africa, people are still lagging in understanding the impact mental health has on us. We had wars, we have poverty, we have polygamy, which we're going to discuss today, that contribute to mental health. We have diseases. We're struggling with malaria, with cancer. Nowadays, we're starting to have more cancers in Africa. We have malarias, HIV, TB. These are the things that contribute to mental health. So everyone here who still believes that there is no such, I would like you to reconsider and educate yourself. Without wasting our time, I have special guests for you today. I have three scholars that will educate us on this very topic that is very important for us to explore and understand its value in Africa or its impact positively and negatively. I can't wait to pick this man's brain. I have a dog here that just got lost on my signal. I think they are still struggling with connection, but we're gonna still discuss this. Don't go away. Click like and share this topic. Invite your friends. Invite your friends. Invite every friend from every culture, because I would like them to understand the impact of polygamy on mental health. Dr. Alkoto there is trying to connect. We're gonna be patient and wait for him. Like as I was saying, I would like people here to seek help when they are struggling. Mental health affects every race, every culture, every religion. A lot of times, people, when they are Christians or they're Muslim or whichever faith you believe in, they believe it doesn't affect them. No one is immune to mental health issues. We are hit by COVID-19 today. It's affecting everyone. People, there's domestic violence, gender-based violence. People are in homes stuck with people that are abusive. So these issues are real, and I would like people to show some compassion and some love around them. Without wasting our time, I'm going to welcome one of our guests here, Dr. Alkodo Julius. Hello, Doc. Are you able to connect? Dr. Alkodo? I'm hoping he's able to connect. Hello, Doc. Can you hear me? Okay, so I'm going to introduce Dr. Alkodo. Dr. Alkodo Julius is a PhD professor at the Institute of African Studies in the University of Ghana.
Am I connected?
Are you connected?
Am I connected?
Yes, you are. How are you? Okay, like I was saying, Dr. Alkodo Julius is one of the lecturers at the University of Ghana. He lectures African studies. So we have the right candidates for you guys.
Good. And you?
I'm good. We're gonna explore this topic. I would like Dr. Okoto, to take us through polygamy, its history in Africa, and the impact it has caused or it caused in the past in our ancestors. I would like him to definitely take us through that and make us understand its impact, because a lot of times people don't realize the impact it has on mental health. And men don't realize its impact. I'm losing Dr. Okoto there for some reason. Dr. Okoto, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to our viewers. They are so patient with us. I don't know, Dr. Okoto, we continuously lose him. We have other two colleagues that will be joining us. Thank you so much for your patience. Yes, I can hear you. Dr. Okoto, do you want to take us through on the history of polygamy in Africa? Can you hear me? These are the issues we are trying to deal with in Africa. Telecommunication. There's poor communication in Africa. So these are the things that GPEN is working on to improve our infrastructure and telecommunication. I'm losing Dr. Okoto there. Hi, Doc. Are you connected?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
Okay, so I had to use a tablet instead of a laptop. Yeah.
No worries, no problem.
Hello. Okay.
Yes, Dr. Okoto, I would like you to take us through on this discussion of polygamy in Africa. What is the history of this? Because it is across Africa. We're seeing more countries making it legal, and without considering the mental health issues it causes. I would like to hear from you. Where is this history? Where did this come from?
Well, thank you. Mental health has always been with humanity and Africans in particular over the ages or over the centuries. In Africa in particular, mental health became more a problem in the during um, the nationalist movement and the vociferous act against colonialism. It became more pronounced. But mental health has always been with us. However, to trace the trajectory and the historiography of polygamy has always been, it's ancient, and it has been with humanity all throughout, their living or existence on the planet Earth. Africans are not exception to polygamy. Polygamy has been with us, and it will continue to be with us. So apart beside, you have endogamy and other practices alongside, which are attribute or tributaries of polygamy. Um, Certain traditional practices and norms enforces this. So, for example, some secret societies in Africa, when you are initiated into the society, it is expected of you not to have less than a wife or less than a woman or one wife, if we can say. Also, certain sexual habitual practices, or what is termed as habitus. Yeah, so for example, a man who is a herbalist, a traditional medical practitioner, especially those who are in spiritism in Africa, often certain rituals binds them and forbid them from having sexual intercourse with women in their menses. So, underlining factor is menses during women's natural menses, which is a natural occurrence. It cannot be prohibited. And during those moments, the men are not expected to copulate with their their female counterparts. So yeah, certain secret society, certain chieftaincy, for example, is a key for you to enter into polygamy. So, for example, the Asante Hene, or traditionally all over Africa, the kings and the noblemen or the nobility goes the right goes with it for you to have more than a wife. So, for example, to put it more specifically, in West Africa, if you become a chief or a king of your village or of your people, much as you might have married on your own, it is expected for you to have a stew wife. So with that, a nobleman goes with a stew wife. So for example, the Asante Hene, who is the king of the Asante, for example, married a person called Lady Julia. However, because he has become a king, he has a stew wife or stew wives, and he's incumbent to have those wives as well to copulate with, because that is what is enshrined constitutionally, binding them. All right. So there are so many traditional practices that makes the individual to go into these practices. All right. So those are the and there are several of them at various levels. I hope you've gotten
Dr.
that.
Yes, you know what? You are enlightening us here. And also the other thing I
Hello,
noticed. Hello, can you hear me?
hello.
Hello?
Are you okay?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for that. Actually, I was looking at also the impact this has on women, as much as it's all about the patriarchal systems that are in Africa, because I'm hearing you, it's all the expectation, it's all the constitution, and all these laws were made by a man, made by a man. And I noticed that in this practice, there's also a benefit to the family. Men, they did it to have more kids. When they have more than one wife, they can have more children to work the land. All about keeping that well in the family. But I would like you to comment on what impact does this practice have on women?
Specifically on women, what these practices have on women is that usually, uh, so for example, or an instance where the man prefer one woman above the other, it can lead to isolation. And this woman, in one way or the form of mental agony with her children. I mean, her children specifically. So, in the instant where the man chooses another or prefer one woman above the others, then it means that the others would go through some form of mental agony. That is one. And it will lead to competition because rivalries, and that is also one way or the other in which Africans acquire, in one way or the other, they go about looking for esoteric knowledge like witchcraft to protect themselves and their wards or their children. So it leads to what we call unexpected, things. In terms, it snowball into other factors, sociocultural factors or practices in our society. So, in the instant where I've mentioned that should one woman be preferred above the others, it means that the others will have to go through sometimes sexual starvation, and sometimes when the others are, when one is preferred to the other, it means that in one way or the other, even what we call in the local parlance as housekeeping money, this unfavored or unfavorable women wouldn't enjoy these this things that they are supposed to be having, and their children in one way or the other would also suffer the same consequences. So it leads to other things which often are unseen and unprepared for. But societal norms, you know, what we haven't done in Africa is to look for how society will keep those things and nip it in the bud. However, it's Christianity, I would say. Islam, on the other hand, came to escalate this and to give it more boost in terms of polygamous discourses. But Christianity came to nip it in the bud because of its emphasis on one wife, or one wife, one man, one wife, etc. And they use certification and legal, you know, practices to curtail this. So, for example, if you have to marry, they tell you that you have to register at the court, and the government must know of your marriage. They have to declare it in terms of certification, witnesses in the church, in and out of court, etc. It was all to nip these things in the bud and to curtail it, though it has spiritual impact as well. But socially, it was to nip this in the bud and to draw attention to the fact that the soul of a man, either a woman or a man, need to enjoy life. You need to go through not all the agonies associated with mental enslavement or mental downgrading or devaluation of the other person. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Doc. I'm losing uh, David there because he's a mental health expert. I would like him to make a contribution on this factor. Honorable David Naboware is our next guest in the house. He is hailing from Ghana. He is the national president of Mental Health Officers Association. Thank you so much, Dave. Thanks so much for joining. We kind of did a back-to-back seminar here. He just left a webinar I was attending to. Thank you so much for making it here. As you heard Dr. Okoto mentioning the impact polygamy has on mental health, I would like you to take us through what are you seeing in your workspace? Women, I would probably say that because I'm pretty sure not many men present because of polygamy issues to your clinics. What is the impact on mental health? Women who are married to these men, there are 5, there are 4 of them. Are you seeing lots of them coming for mental health support?
Yes, please. I see them come to me. Yes, thank you very much, and I want to congratulate you for keeping us every week Saturday coming live to speak about these issues regarding mental health. And I want to also say we thank Doc so much for also coming along to joining us with his rich experience. I'm David Naboware, the national president of Mental Health Officers Association Ghana. I'm just speaking right from Ghana here and onto the world. So at my clinic setting, what I do is that there is this project I do on maternal mental health. So I try to get myself involved in most of the ANC sessions, postnatal sessions, where I get the opportunity to speak to mothers who come to the clinic. So you will be able to see that from time to time, I take a specific topic due to what I see in the community, then I speak. So I think I always engage them on an area on partner abuse and violence. So yeah, and as you know, most of them will tell you that they have this kind of insecurity in their marriage, especially when they are two or three. So I want to go back small on what actually brings on this polygamous lifestyle, especially on we the men, because we are the victims and will continue to be the victims if we don't advise ourselves. And some people's daughter and our daughters and our sisters will be suffering elsewhere. So we have to look at our ethnic norms or societal norms, as Doc mentioned. Yes, when you look at these communities and the society we come from, on the African perspective, most subscribe to polygamous marriage. Yes, they don't frown at that because if you can take care of the women, especially, I would say, the ethnic background I come from, if you marry two women, there is no problem about that. You put all of them in the house, go to farm with them, they cook, they make children, you are all in the same house. Because it's only my dad that had a one wife, but most of my uncles had two. Yeah, and we live in the same community. I grew up with them, they trained me, so I know what I'm talking about. So some is our ethnic norms, and it will be very difficult for we to change that perspective because we are imbibed in it. And since generation, some are also trying to even get involved at our age level. Then the next issue is about our lifestyle. Yes, for me, David, probably I'm 32 now, and my past relationship, I had close to probably, it's just an example, maybe 10 relationship before getting married. Yes, moving into any relationship, if I don't concentrate my mentality well, it will be hard to stay on one relationship because you are actually going to be seeing your exes, and even that lifestyle you have learned, you are going to be seen that it is necessary you continue with what you used to do when you were single. So most of the young guys had multiple relationships before getting into marriage. So stopping even when they get married is difficult. Yes, another issue is about exposure. Some they are exposed to this kind of polygamous lifestyle due to the kind of friends they have. If my friend probably has two wives and I work with him, which advice would he give me? so so you can see that birds of the same feathers they flock together. Automatically he will also tell me, hey Dave, you need to get someone to add to your wife, then life goes on. Or this one will be in Kumasi, the other one will be in Accra. Then whenever you travel, you try to, make yourself comfortable. The next issue is about leadership. Yes, leadership in this regard, Doc was mentioning about our traditional leadership. That is one. The political leadership is two. When most of our men get into leadership, they try to get to a point that they need to add up somebody to the previous one they have, because now the status had increased. Now they need to look like if this one is not with me, the other one should be there. Are you getting me? Yes. So not only in the traditional setting, even most of the politicians, you see them having two wives. Yes, and it is normal because our society and our ethnic norms don't frown at that, because it's only if you have single wives. Yes, we also have as a pride to populate our ethnic groups. Most of our people use numbers to show strength. So they will use this mechanism to reproduce, so that when you come to any community, and probably me and my siblings, we are 32 and you are just three. Are you sure you can match us when it becomes probably exchange of anything in terms of violence and agitation? No, we have the numbers. So we will make sure that, so the one who is having just three members, he will also be challenging himself that we also need to populate. So it will be a challenge to show strength in that. So there is this pride when they have the numbers, that we have the young men, we have the ladies, we are more than you when it becomes anything in terms of decision making. We also have human resource. Gone are the days when our parents use us to work on their farms. if you had children, then it serves as a source of human resource for your farm.
Yes.
So when your kids are about 10, your farm will surely be a large farm. Likewise, if your kids are 2, unlike now that technology has come that they use these improved methods, so they were using it as a bait to be working on their farms and have money at the end of the day. Then we also have, as Doc mentioned, religion can never be counted out. Yes, because some religions subscribe to this, and we have our traditional religion of which we've spoken about. We have even some churches, they subscribe to you can marry 2 wives. Yes, then the Muslim or Islamic religion, I think the limit is 4. So if I can go by 4, there is no problem. Yes, so most of the cases I see, they come from the Islamic perspective, some from the traditional. It's hardly before you see the Christian religion members come. Then we also have deprivation and starvation in any relationship. I'm married to you, you have no disease condition, but the women in their own volition will think I need to punish you by depriving you of sex. The man will surely take his own initiative to get himself free elsewhere. So this is why most men at times try to become polygamous. But by nature, even when we read from history, men have been polygamous. And I think I was looking at what makes men polygamous. There is this particular, I think is one of our DNAs. Yes, so I think we'll be doing more later on that. Yes, so you only find a very few men who will stand the test of time not to be polygamous. But it's all about our upbringing, because we have passed through a stage and we have gotten to this level. And moving on, that lifestyle, to live it, you have to prepare yourself mentally and be able to chart a path so that you can actually do something out there for yourself and your community. Because you have to look at probably the coming in of these venereal diseases or chronic diseases that we have, waste of
Yes.
resources and the likes. Yes, then also giving our women that dignity that they deserve.
Yes.
Because for me, my ethnic background, I always use it as an example when I'm giving this topic. Any woman that marries you, the woman has no right to cheat on you, the man. But you, the man, you can even marry another woman. So, in yes, because even right now, even as a worker, if my parents, my father is no more, my mom sits down and I go into the house with another wife, they will not say anything. They will just say, if only I can be with the person. They don't have any problem because they see no problem about that. And the entire community will even praise you for that because they see nothing wrong about that. So you
Yes.
can see that even they trying to look at probably some kind of issues into whatever you are doing, they have nothing about that because your any background and the values they have subscribe to that, there is no problem. Some have two, some have 3. So if you have 2, what is their problem?
Yes.
So for mental health, I think this particular topic we should revisit it because a lot of women are in difficult times because of their relationship currently. And
Yes.
who to even speak to is a problem because even in their family, they marry. Speaking to me, let's say my wife speaking to my brother on whatever I do against her, of which she doesn't understand. Sometimes they don't get that opportunity to air their views. Unlike some of us who can walk to our brother's wife, sit them down, call the whole family, let's deliberate on who is wrong, who is right, and put issues right. We support whoever is right, whoever is wrong, we put you down and correct you. No, some people don't have that opportunity. They are always
Yes.
like the women are wrong, the women are wrong, and they don't have any platform to also stand and air their views. So you can see that they will be in a relationship or in a marriage, but there is that this kind of pain, emotional abuse from time to time. You see them not growing up economically, not growing up psychologically, but they don't look at these partner abuse issues. Because I was looking at various forms of partner abuse. We have physical abuse, we have psychological abuse, we have emotional abuse. You see, then economic abuse.
And the sexual abuse, Dave. It's
Yes.
abusive for a woman not to have access to her husband. It's abuse.
Yes.
Yes.
So I was telling our women that it has come to a point that they themselves should also demand sex from their husbands, because most of them see it as they become like, probably, if the most of the cultures, as I know, they don't subscribe to that. The men must always demand. So if demanding when you don't want, it means you not be ready. So it has come to a point we must also tell the women. So in my clinic session, I tell them, when you go, if it's in the morning, try preparing the man's mind that in the evening we'll have a football match. So that if he's going out and he's watching someone in a short skirt, he will not watch that skirt, but he will watch you in the house.
Yes. Dave, you've said so much. And the sad part.
So for polygamy, for we to eradicate this, then it needs probably a total wipe off of this current generation. It will be difficult, because as we speak, people are even in hotels and in guest houses with their girlfriends,
Dave, you
leaving their
said,
wives at home.
yeah. Well,
So we need
it's
to keep on hitting on this topic, looking at probably opportunities for men that will change. We use some to set as examples. We look at probably the negativity of it. We bring women on board who have been on this abuse side of polygamous marriages to speak out for men to listen to. And I tell you, men at times they behave like kids. Yes. That is why when you talk about men mental health, I like it. We want you to come on board and support that. At times, men, I don't know, and we need to actually hit on their topics to be able to bring them on the line. So mental health, women are in several mental illnesses, disorders, or conditions because of we the men. Some have committed suicide, some have depression. Yes, a certain woman walked to me and told me that if my husband don't raisen up, I will kill myself. I said, what? Yes. And they are ready to do it. So you can see where. So I was telling them that I don't subscribe to you probably divorce, but if that is the option, sit on a table and we look at that, because it's your life first. If you die now, those kids, they can't go to the cemetery and hold your hand, mommy, wake up. No. But if you divorce, one day, those kids will look for you and you can make a better life.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much, Dave. You know what? You've mentioned so much. It's so packed, and it goes back to our last week discussion. We talked about patriarchy, and the reverend that came here as a guest mentioned that the problem we have right now in Africa, it's like having malaria. You cannot go to a mosquito to help you from malaria. So what it means, we need to change. I know that feminism is viewed as something that as women are viewed as they're angry. I think in Africa, for us to take care of this, because it is affecting mental health of women and men, because at the end of the day, if we're going to continue with whatever happened centuries ago and continue as if it's working in the 21st century, we're getting it all wrong. And I'm not saying or bashing polygamy, because there's some families that do it so well in Africa, where a man, for some reason, I don't know the strength where he gets it from, all women or all their wives, they claim to be happy. Any comment on that, Dr. Alcodo? When women claim to say they are happy with what their husbands are doing. Even in South Africa right now, there is a program I watch where a man has like more than 4 or 5, even our previous President Zuma had wives. Can you tell me about that dynamic when women claim, when it's the opposite now, say, I'm happy, I'm okay? Is it because they are looking at it at a financial perspective? Because even women, they look at it, I have a gain on this. I'm living in a nice home. I have actually access to cars. But what does it do mentally? I would like us to explore that dynamic when women claim to be happy. Dr. Okoro, did you hear that?
Yes. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right. So, just as um, Mr. David and I have mentioned in terms of building our foundation for the program, I would like to stress that in the African cultural systems and traditions, um, when foundations are laid, as you could tie this argument to patriarchy system, it becomes very difficult for change to happen just all of a sudden. It
Yeah.
takes time. It takes a gradual approach to the norms and practices to be transformed over time. And these are due to several reasons. One, diseases and plagues are one of the major reasons why Africans used to quote unquote later kids like guinea pigs or even, you
Yes.
know, go in for more or three wives. Three, in addition to tie that to your question, women also look at women and their families in particular, always look out for prestige.
Yes.
And for such women, attachment of prestige is paramount to them. So if she is going to marry to a man who is an honorable man in society, in terms of the person being a title man, as the Nigerians often put it, she's happy. She thinks that that is the ultimate and the ultimate of life and the fulfillment of life, irrespective of all the other aspects of life that should be attached to living, in terms of emotion, in terms of happiness, etc. You
Yeah.
know, so she sees that prestige as the ultimate source of all things and the greatness of all achievement. So to her and her family, especially, because in Africa, the individual doesn't marry, it is the family that marries. That is what we should know as a practice and a norm in Africa. So the idea of the European or the Western European Eurocentric Christian Judeo-Christian practice of one wife, one man doesn't they often don't see it that way. They see the prestige and the fact that you being a chief is the ultimate in terms of you being more human in your society or your cultural setting. So with that, they tend to subside all other and press all other things in order to gain that. In order to gain that. So that is often the major reason why such things are bound to happen. They are bound to happen. Um, in addition to the diseases, you also see that, as David mentioned, farm, etc. But ever, it is about countering farming. The African is interested in countering farming because if you look into the African traditional system, the African doesn't know what is hunger. It is the colonial system that brought about those, hunger, famine we are experiencing today. The African has never want to be hungry. And
Yes.
because of that, everything they would do, in one way or the other, in terms of their numerical strength, etc., was very vital to their vital force because this is their vital force. The other thing is that marriage is also a form of initiation. It's a rite of passage.
Yes.
And they see that attached to that norm of what? Rite of passage, where they are sailing through a different aspect of life or a different phase of life. And that life must add value to their world as human beings. Okay, so all these and all other factors makes it a comparison, especially if we leave the nitty gritty without integrating the nuances, then we will not do justice to to our own values and to our own society. However, that doesn't mean that this should be, you know, as people force, we have false marriages. So, for example, you see kids or even younger ladies are forced to marry the elders, and the vice versa. That is not how it should be done. But these are societal norms, and often until one gets out of that society, it's become very difficult for you to not to subscribe to or succumb to such societal norms. However, the thing is that the blessing is that we who are quote unquote enlightened and educated should be able to bring these things to their attention and to societal practices. We should be able to bring this to the minds of the people. We should lead their minds to it and not force their minds to it. Often, what we educated people do is to force the indigenous people or our indigenous folks into these things instead of leading their minds into the issues. All right. So often when we force them, it doesn't do good. Okay. It
You know
doesn't
what,
do good. And we
Doctor?
should be thinking of leading their minds into the issues instead of forcing them into it.
You are
Okay.
mentioning leading, and they,
Hello.
yes, thank you so much. You are mentioning leading
Yeah.
as the educated generation, but the problem is the leading would start at a governmental level.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me? So where does this leading start? Because even traditionally, we're looking at kings. There's places like Swaziland, even in our
Yeah,
Zulu.
I'm hearing you.
Yes, can you hear me? Like I'm looking at how do we lead? Like I mean, as an educated generation today, how do we influence our leaders? Like I mean, as Africans, we have kings that would choose. I mean, there's places like Swaziland where young girls are asked to go for those ritual dances, and they are dancing with their small skirts, like their traditional skirts, showing it has also been. I find that girls have been objected to this to be subjects to these men because they go out to do this dancing, these traditional dances, and the king is sitting there looking at the young girl he'll be choosing to be his next wife. So again, I find that where do we start? Where do you start nipping the bud here? Because unfortunately, the kings and who are in power in Africa are doing it. Where do we start educating? Like, do you have any comment on that, Dave? Where do we start educating our people? Because even you were mentioning the politicians themselves, if we're going the government,
Yes, yes, yes.
they are doing it.
Yeah, yes. Just to bring us back small before I move on to what you have asked. I think one of the reasons why our some people would like to be in polygamous marriages is that of late we are talking about you becoming a leader, but who do you lead? You lead a population, and even going to contest an election. The people will look at probably which numbers make up you. So you always see people going for people who have great numbers of their ethnic background. So it has become a tribal something. Yeah, so this is where some emphasis to is quite difficult when we are handling this topic, because you said, okay, 60 million Ghanaians have registered to vote, but in your location, you are just one, probably, and your people are just 10 in your whole ethnic background. Who votes for you? Even people even talk against you on that. So we have to look at this, engage people at a higher level. You ask, where are we starting from? It is about we advocating. And in terms of advocacy, as Doc said, we can only lead for them to know the importance of we doing the otherwise of polygamy. Because if you get a woman and you raising a family, that is enough for you to take care of your family and concentrate on your business and move on in life. Because that is what you can do at what point in time. But we cannot also say that we should force them that they should change. And you cannot make any law for them, because on top of the policy, they are there.
Yes.
When you
That's a
come down, they are there. At the
yeah.
middle, they are there.
Yes. Yes.
So it is difficult. But in
Yes.
as much as it's difficult, we must target one, our women advocacy. The women must be uh, educated enough, because if they are able to kind of know that, okay, I need not go for maybe someone who is already into relationship, I must look out for another person, then they will also help us in this process, because most of the times, as Doc also said, it is women always want people who have this kind of pride. When
Yes.
you are called honorable, yeah, they
Yes.
like it more than anything. They don't look into the bigger picture of what happens.
Yes.
So women are very instrumental in this fight, because
Yes.
if I have one wife and I'm coming for you as the second wife, you should be able to tell me, oh, Honorable David Nabuari, I know you have one wife already, so it can't be possible. So I
Yes.
beg you, I will understand.
Yes.
Explain to me why it can be possible. But can women stand this? Some will refuse, others will accept.
You know what? It's a moral
So
thing.
that, so yes, starting it
It's a
from, we must
moral
start it from
thing.
the mothers of the young ladies. So the mothers must not push their daughters to go into this relationship.
Yes.
Yes, they will be very helpful in that. And also, most of our parents, too, especially our fathers, should support this particular agenda, and
Thank you.
also ensure that their daughters are educated enough. Education is the key. When they
Yes.
are educated, they will be able to break all barriers, and also look out for this other way around of polygamy. Though we know most of them will cry, I am 32, I have a job, I have a car, I have a husband, no husband. Pray for the husband, God will give you the husband. Because nobody manufactures a husband outside there. It is you who will pray for whoever God will give to you. That is it. But also to lay your emphasis on probably an already married man. Our, should I say, current status, we will say that the women should look at that and support us. Because if you don't support us, always men will always fall short of this particular, they will fail
Yes.
the test. And when they
Yes.
fail the test, you help them to pass the test. So if you are helping them to pass the test, how will they fail? They can't fail. So they must help us in this particular issue. If they help us, I think we cannot eliminate it totally, but we'll reduce it to the barest
Yes.
minimum.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you
Then
so
those
much. Yes, thank you so much. You know, you mentioned something very important, that as mothers, we need to do our part, help our children self-esteem, empower them with education. Of course, this is challenging because there's countries that encourage young girls to get married. And like you said in the beginning, both of you, that there's an element of looking for wealth. Like fathers are also marrying their young girls away to get kettles. It's such a complex dynamic. I was looking at also Tanzania, the president literally encourages men to take polygamous actions because women there are over like 10 million more. So it's such a complex issue. It's political, it's traditional. You know, I don't want to deprive our viewers. There's few comments here. I'm going to take them before we close. Someone said, Feminine Mark says, hello. My colleague Swangile here says, Morning Pepper says, I'm personally touched and affected. Thank you so much, both, for coming through. Japan Nigeria says, Africans, all Africans need to be here. Yes, you're right. Thank you. Uh, Wa says, good morning, good evening, doctor. Thank you. Thank you, Wa. And he says, Honorable Dave, you got the point there. He's also agreeing with what you said. And Clinton, this question is directed to one of you guys. Are you saying there are no positives on polygamy? Are these negatives not more rampant in monogamy? Does Ghana have more mental health problems than a monogamous country? Can you take that, Dave?
Yes, I think the very person that asked this question is trying to probably take us out of the context. We came out with what we wanted to talk on polygamy, and we were looking at what actually make us polygamous. and we outline a couple of items that make us polygamous, and we did respected our uh, ethnic and culture and the likes, that they subscribe to that, of which I don't think any of us, the speakers, spoke against our own culture. All that we said was we came out to say that these are the things that make we men polygamous. But he was asking whether we have some positives in monogamous than the polygamous. Yes, there are, because when you look at most of the cases, I am not saying that we have done a complete survey on that, but looking at the topic in perspective, in terms of partner abuse, when you juxtapose monogamous marriages to polygamous marriages, most of the partner abuse are coming from the polygamous marriages than the monogamous marriages. Though you do record one or two, all the marriages cannot be 100%, but most of the cases, they are higher in polygamous marriage than in monogamous marriage. I want the very listener to understand. So we are not totally saying that we cannot write you off of your own probably understanding of polygamy in your own setting. But these some of the things we have outlined that you should take into consideration, that in terms of partner abuse, these are the things that happen in polygamous marriages higher than in monogamous marriage. So, our dear listener and viewer, we will not challenge our own culture and our own people and our own issues, but we want to work at perfection of issues as we move on with this kind of technology education coming in. So, do we say in the past, we don't encourage women to be educated, so now shouldn't we encourage women to get educated? No, because in my own this thing, in the past, hardly before you see a woman going into education, but now we even have people with master's degree holders higher than we the men. So are we not happy at that? But how did it come about? It came about advocacy, that send your girl child to school, and they did that. Yes, even my own uncle's daughter, she just completed the university just this year and doing her national service. I am proud of that lady. I paid her school fees. I'm okay. But should this lady gone into marriage maybe at the JHS level? Where would she have been now? Now she can get her own, not to call me uncle, I need this, I need. No, I'm okay now. She should take her life, find any man and marry. That is it. But I also be waiting for the man she'll bring to the house. I told her, whoever you see and you want to marry, you bring the man. We'll look at the man before we support you. That is all.
Thank you.
Yes. So I think the dog can
Thank you
add
so much.
something to this.
Yes. I want to show the next speaker here. Our says polygamy becomes a problem when women interpret it from Western perspective. The abuse do not only happen in polygamous relations. Economic and social needs are some factors. You guys are doing good. Thank you so much, Howard. Momodo says, good evening to all. Thank you so much. And he's also saying, as well as disease, of course, we talked about the impact it has on diseases. The sexual transmitted infections we're seeing, we have HIV, syphilis is growing again. Izawa says, polygamy or monogamy are both natural things. It depends on the person's orientation. Yes, we talked about that. Actually, I would like to move to the next. Momodu says, by educating our people, we need volunteers on the ground, spreading message to people in a language they understand. Yes, you both said it's important to lead by example. You know, it's important, all these people that are watching us here, if you have an opportunity to be in a society where you could influence, lead by example. Be a leader, because to be honest, our people, they look up to educated people. When we do good, people will follow you. So the lifestyle is quite fundamental in this aspect. Abina says, education, education, education. Yes, I'm glad it's coming from a lady. Thank you. You're right. Yvonne says, very true. Agree. Parents should educate their girls, including their fathers. Dads need to come on board on this. Modo says, in the next 50 years, our population will be double, and the West are trying to reduce us from now. So I think polymer is another way positive. Any comments on that, Doc? Dr. Okodi, did you hear that comment?
Yes. So yes, I heard it. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
You're hearing? Can I?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so we can tie the issue he raised with decolonization and nationalism in Africa. During the Maji Maji and the Mau Mau movement, we realized that these things came out. And we, in African traditional military systems, there are certain rituals that goes with wars. And these things demand
I'm losing Dr. Okoto there. Meanwhile,
people in society, liaisons between the and like I
we have trouble with Dr. Okoto's connection there. I'm gonna move on to the next comment. Momodo says, he says, in another way, if we ban polygamy, there will be more women and it will result in the gay and lesbianism in our continent. Okay, I got you back, Doc.
Yes. So as I said, there are certain titles that you will not acquire if you are not in a certain position. So during the Maji Maji and the Mau Mau movement, for example, you realize that the warriors needed certain blood in particular to perform their rituals in order to overcome the Europeans. And these were women's menstrual, their menses, all right? And that tells you that, so the woman, the woman is like a vital to the winning of the war. And these were people who then have to date more than 2 or 3 women at a time in order for that rituals to be sustained. You get that? So the in terms of war and the rituals that goes with it, it's become inevitable then not to practice polygamy in one way or the other. The other thing is what we call, quote unquote, barrenness. And with it goes in African traditional practice, what we call female husbands, the female husbands. So a woman who is barren can go and quote unquote purchase another woman, often people of a lower stature, for that person to stand in her stead to copulate with the husband in order to make babies or make children for her. You get
That's
it? So such practices becomes inevitable. Yeah, it becomes inevitable for such practices to stop. But in relating it more is the historical antecedent. It is ingrained in the mind of the average African that in one way or the other, the biological means of which eradication of the human populace is now evolving in 8 different segments and quadrants of life. The African want to sustain his or himself. And so polygamy will be very, 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 very difficult because the antecedent of history tells it all. All right, pollution of water, destruction of water bodies. All these things are things that tells the African that he needs to be on guard. And so population, such polygamous practices will forever go on. Howbeit, these things are intergenerational, and the intergeneration act of it can be broken down. Okay, it can be broken down in terms of strategies that Africans adopt to break it. So, for example, when the Europeans came, one of the ways to, you know, to make our forebears rethink about marriage was, a form of what creating what we call Jerusalem and, quarantining them, separating those people, you know, retooling their mind and telling them of how needless it was to marry, a multitude or be polygamous in practice. So if we want to break those generational gaps, then first and foremost, we need to target the innocent ones who are the younger generation. We should
Yeah,
send these ideas right to the primary. We should formulate them into syllabus and begin to teach right from the word go.
I love it,
When
Doc.
we do that, then we form maybe debating clubs and ask the children to pick and choose right from the beginning. All right. So you realize that in the early parts of the 1900s, the Europeans instituted all over reading clubs or club associations. They had debating clubs for the individual to make choices of the cultural practices. Okay. Although it pegged society against each other, those who became elite were against the non-elite. But yeah, they need to make choices, and choices must always be given to the individual due to for the sake of right. But to emphasize, if we want to break these things as chains around our neck, then we need to go deep down to the earliest ages and to
Yes,
reteach them. Because for we the adults, we have it has gotten hold of our minds. Yeah.
yes,
So let's formulate them into policies, formulate them into syllabi of teachings right from there. Let's now with animations, we can do them into animations and teach our kids right from the very beginning.
I love it.
So,
I love it, Doc. So basically, we need, like I
hi,
said,
Jake.
beginning, we need to
Okay.
empower young girls at a level of parenting stage, schools. I love that comment that we need to actually incorporate this in their syllabus. Thank you. I have Mr. Jacob Abudu joining us from Ghana. He's also a senior lecturer at one of the universities there in the African Studies Department. Thank you so much for joining us, Jacob.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know that
And
you
sorry
come.
for joining late.
Yes, no, that's fine. But our conversation is coming to an end. You know what? I know that you are a great scholar on this. I would like
No.
you to comment on one of the viewers' comments. We're talking about polygamy, as you know. Someone says, in another way, if we ban polygamy in Africa, there will be more women and it will result in the gay and lesbianism in our continent. Do you want to comment on that, Jacob?
Well, yes, I should think so because you're looking at figures, and if you look at the figures in Ghana, for example, you are looking at the ratio of men to women, and you realize that the ratio is just 1 to 3. So you have 1 to 3 women, and the question is that if you were to ban polygamy, what happens to the rest of the women? And some of them who will not have husbands may have to have some other ways of satisfying themselves. Interestingly, from a biological perspective, a woman at a certain age, normally just as any other human being, would want to, you know, would want to maintain what we call homeostasis in psychology or in
Yes.
biology. That is a balance in the chemical listen. And the question is, if the person cannot get sexual satisfaction from a husband or is not fully married to somebody, what else do you think the person would have to do? And when you also talk of homeostasis, it has an effect on the mental health of a person. Now,
Yes.
once it's just like maybe having an urge to urinate and you don't have a place to go and wee wee, and you get the opportunity of doing that, you realize that the body is at rest, is at you at certain state that you find yourself very relieved. So psychologically, for those who will not be able to have a normal so-called relationship in respect of maybe a husband or a wife, they may have to resort to some other ways of ensuring that they have some kind of satisfaction.
Yes. Wow. I wish we had more time and to pick your brain, but you basically answered what Mr. Momodo was saying. And actually, there's also another comment here. I would like one of you guys to take this on. Of the cause of polymer in Africa is the cause of polymer in Africa is when men started gaining some money, then they decide to on marrying other women, I guess, instead of thinking of his future. So there's so much.
I
Yes, go ahead, Jacob.
just want to say that I think that this is just a mere perception. Um, if that was anything to go by, then it would surely indicate that for those who are living in areas where poverty is endemic, they will not have more than one wife. If that assertion was true, and I do not think that that assertion is true. But what I do think that once it is part of the culture, part of the tradition of a people, and once one of the main underlying reasons for it was to have quite a large labor force. I think that it is virtually written in the DNA of people, whether the person is poor or the person is not poor. Indeed, I believe that in areas outside Africa, if it was not banned for very good reasons there, I believe that they would have been practicing it.
I
Oops,
know.
I've lost the feed.
Yes. You know what, gentlemen? I would
Am I
now.
there?
Yes, I heard you. Thank you so much.
Oh,
I think, and also Momodo is mentioning that I think instead of going against polygamy, we must teach our men about their future. Thank you so much. I wish we had more time, and I would like each one of you to drop some nuggets for our viewers, what to take home before we close our session. Do you want to go first, Dr. Okotu?
Well, polygamy, I would say, is of ancient origin. We can't take an axe to break it off our neck. We have to gradually allow it to fade off, if it will.
Yeah.
But our cultural setting doesn't allow things to be done sporadic, and so we have to be gradually at it.
Thank you so
That is
much.
what I would advise. We just pointed to us that, for example, the Maji Maji, the Mau Mau movement in the early part of the 50s to the 60s were paramount. And in this case, men practice polygamy. And polygamy has been with humanity since, the most ancient era till date.
Yeah.
Um, what we can encourage is to use tools, kit tools, to adjust.
Thank you so much. Dave, do you want to say something?
All I would like to say is that so far as we still have senior members in our cultural setting who are professors, doctors, and the likes, we will need them to help us in this fight so that we'll be able to convey this information to our traditional leaders and whoever that is concerned. We are not against whatever they are doing, but we want to see the positivity and the best way out in future. Then the young ones, to as Doc said, we should see how best some advocacy can be done on platforms that will get them to know the importance of some of these and be able to learn more apps in probably monogamous instances. Someone was saying, do we throw away polygamy and who will marry the women? We cannot answer who will marry who here, but we can answer what the importance of probably you having a monogamous marriage will be. So,
Thank
and we are not against any culture, we are not against any traditional authority. We are just speaking based on what we learn and what we know, and we think we need to share with the society at large. So we know it's an important area that men don't want to talk on, but I
Yes.
know that today we are speaking on an area that most people will be happy and most people wouldn't be happy. That is okay. So we move on with our corrections and change the dynamics along the line. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Uh, Jake, do you want to say something?
Well, I think that polygamy is like any other social
Actually, you are
concept, may have
muted.
its positives and negatives, and then we need to look at the positives, especially to have hello,
Hi, Jake. I did not hear you.
On
Sorry.
mute.
You want to unmute yourself, please? Thank you.
hello,
Yes, I can hear you now.
It's still no mute.
hello. Am I there?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you now. You want to unmute yourself,
Yeah,
Jake?
I was saying, yeah,
Go
yeah, I
ahead.
was suggesting that it has its positives and its negatives, just like any other social concept. And we have to look at the positives and still talk about it. One of the positives is that it helps a lot when it comes to issues of fertility. Once the women, what we call co-wives, have some level of understanding, and they do not usually
You know what? We lost Jacob there. In closure, thank you so much to our viewers. And more so, actually, let me thank you for being patient in all what was happening here. We're kind of losing our speakers every now and then. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm hoping to see you again next week. This was an interesting discussion. And as you heard from the speakers, we all about empowering ourselves, improving what we know, what is not working, what worked back in the before many centuries ago. Now I like the fact that my guests here are emphasizing the importance of education. Not only girls, also boy children need to understand this new generation needs to be empowered. And I like the fact that there's also a suggestion to even put this in the syllabus. Education is fundamental. Education will always be the key to success. I'm so grateful for our guests that came and enlightened us on this matter. And I actually would like you, as your take home, to listen to what they said and not to take it in a negative way to kind of be negative on our cultures, our traditions, but let's look at the impact it has. Now it's up to each one of you viewers to look at the life you are living. Is it bringing positivity to the world around you? That's the question I'm going to leave you with. As we all know that in Africa, we are fighting venereal diseases like Honorable Dave mentioned. Are you bringing positive to the table? That's one thing I want you to take home right now. Thank you so much for being here. I'm hoping to see you guys next week. Have a lovely and blessed week. And thank you so much to our guests.